right. Welcome to the Lion Show. I'm your host, your favorite business coach, Robert Lyon. And today we are blessed to have Bryan Santos. He's a business acquisition coach. And he owns his own company, Merger Acquisition Solutions. And he's just got tons of insight on business. And I'm just really excited to pick his brain. So, Bryan, why don't you introduce yourself and kind of tell everybody kind of what you're all about and who you are?
Sure. Well, first of all, Robert, lovely to be here, and thanks for having me on your show. Um, so my business is Merger and Acquisition Solutions, and the website is mergeracquisitionsolutions.com. And basically, what my business, there's two parts to it. So I have an M&A advisory business, so we help businesses grow by mergers and acquisitions, get involved with the what we call the deal origination, going and sourcing and strategically finding the right opportunities, help structure the deals, fund the deals, and so that they can grow to that next level. And that involves large companies as well as small and medium-sized companies. And then the other side of what we do is coach and mentor businesses to raise capital so that they can grow to that next level, find the right money partners, as well as obviously looking to grow by acquisition. So it keeps us busy, keeps us out of trouble, and I love what we do. Yeah.
Awesome, man. I mean, there's just so many ways that it goes, but you mentioned something about how you started out and you got a business without any money. Like, how do you do
Yeah.
that?
So there's a lot of ways, right? So first of all, when you hear the term no money down deals, it doesn't mean that there's no money involved. Right. It doesn't mean that you've bought it for, like there's no value to the transaction. It's just that you've thought differently. Because, when you think about it, money is a commodity. Money is, there's different ways to structure money in a transaction. So I literally bought it. I had to legally, I had to pay $1 because for a transaction to happen, there has to be an exchange of money legally here at least. And so on the contract, it literally said $1, but it was essentially right. So
yes, dollars.
yeah. So and that was because I'd already been exposed to helping businesses grow. I had a level of, I guess, self-belief and confidence that I knew if I bought a business or a certain business, I could improve it. If I buy a business that's generating X and I buy it for this, which was $1, I know that if I improved it, the revenues, then I could sell it for more. And so that's what I did. The whole purpose was to flip it, almost like a reno job, right? In property, if you can buy it right, and you can do some slight improvements, that the market, if you buy it under market and you do some slight improvements, and you can sell it for a higher price, and if it's in a demand area, it's pretty good money. And so that's what I did. And in terms of your questions, how did I buy it? So that one was essentially I negotiated everyone has a motivation or agenda in this, with their current situation. These people, they had their business. So it was a cafe restaurant right under Sydney Harbour Bridge. So it was a really popular area, a lot of tourists and all that sort of stuff. And they were doing decent revenue at the time, not the greatest, but they were two sisters that had paid a lot of money to set this cafe and restaurant up. They had these, lovely ideals of what they could do with it, and they left their jobs, and these two sisters said, yes, let's finally do something together. And that's what they did. And then after a year and a half into it, realized how hard it was to juggle the workload with family, the young kids, and all that sort of stuff. And they just wanted out. They were up to their eyeballs in stress and all that sort of stuff. And so they were trying to sell it. They couldn't sell it for what they were asking for. I had approached them earlier and built a level of rapport with them. I knew what they were asking they weren't going to get, but I kept in touch, and I knew that there was a level of value in their assets. So they had, proper commercial kitchen out, stoves, ovens, all that sort of stuff, the tableware, the coffee machines. This is like, well over $100,000 in basic equipment alone. So it was about how I negotiated and how I structured it. And they had a commitment to the landlord, to the owner of the property, for another 2 or 3 years. So if they didn't, even if they went, no, I'm over this, and they don't want to open the doors, they still had rent to pay. They still had some outstanding on some of the equipment leases and all that sort of stuff. And to a degree, they had a commitment to the staff that they hired, who became to a degree family to them as well. So they wanted, it was in their interest for someone to take it over and continue, take over their headaches. So that's what I did. That's what I pitched to them. And I said, look, you've got this debt, essentially. I'll take over your debt and your headaches. And, I convinced them that I was trustworthy enough and competent enough that I would be able to do that. And so that's what I did in a nutshell. Yeah. And at the same time, I knew what I was going to do. I told them this is what I was going to do with the business, did some basic marketing things, increased the revenue. And then, in a few short months, we flipped it. And I had a few people, offering to buy the business. And I had it for a short time. And by the way, I hadn't owned, that was my first business. I hadn't worked in a food business before. I've never made a coffee before. I've never, I was still living at home at the time. So I didn't know how to cook anything, but I knew I knew that was an opportunity. And so as entrepreneurs, sometimes you may not have the skill set in a field or anything like that, but you might see an opportunity. And so, that's what I did and figured out how to make the most of it.
Yeah, I love it. I read a real estate book and it was ABC and it was anything but cash. And that's how he would buy real estate.
I love it, right?
Yeah. So one of my favorite questions, I guess, nowadays is to ask coaches is, what's the story of when you realized you were ready to be a coach? So since you're consulting for merger and acquisitions and stuff like that, like when did you do that?
I've never been asked that. So over the years, people had actually said to me, you should do some coaching, you should do consulting. And I always refused that because I didn't see myself as a coach. I always thought, no, like I'm an entrepreneur, man. Like I'm a businessman. Like I'm going to do it, my business, not help others. But at the same time, I was always helping other people, like just because I like helping people, but I never wanted to be a coach. And so I just denied that in my mindset. No, I don't want to be a coach. And then even though that's essentially what I was doing with helping business owners in their businesses along the way. When did it? I don't know. I don't know if there was a single event. I don't know if it was a single event, but I know that I eventually realized that I loved helping people, and I realized that what I could do was actually in the way I thought could actually help. So if I can help people framework how they think and how they approach certain things, because obviously every business is different, every industry is different, but there are some core things in business that if you can get those things right, or if you can adjust those dials in some of those key areas, then no matter what business it is, you can pull those levers and have an effect or have a result. On revenue, on profits, on cost of goods, on staffing, on cash flow management, on leveraging your balance sheet, all those sorts of things. It's the same, right? It's the same, but different.
Yeah, no, I think once you read like every business book out there, you realize it's all kind of the same stuff, just worded.
Yeah.
And then you kind of have a good picture of how to play the game and put it all together.
Yeah. And someone I learned a lot from after just reading and just being obsessed with his stuff was Jay Abraham. And what I really liked about Jay was, the term genius gets, said a lot, but I do think he is a business genius, because what he was able to do, it's his thinking, right? It's his framework of thinking, and he would apply, he'd go, okay, this is what's happening in one industry really, really well, or, type of business. How can I, and most people think, okay, if I'm in construction or if I'm a plumber, what are the ways that other plumbers are improving their businesses? Okay, well, that's one way. But if there's something in that industry, well, what's working? And then you can break it down into actual strategies or things that you could replicate. Well, hang on, what is actually happening here? Could I introduce that into a digital marketing company? Could that be effective with a dental practice? Could that be effective in a coaching business, whatever the case might be? And that's what I really loved about how he thought. And, it affected how I thought too.
Yeah, no, Jay Abraham and Peter Drucker are like the biggest
Yes.
business influence people that I just like. Everything they say is just like intense. I love
Yeah.
it. They know what they're
Yeah.
talking about. You don't
Yeah, man.
find it that kind of level of intelligence. I feel like it anymore sometimes. So now that you've been doing this for a while, what do you have like a specific business niche that you kind of stick to, or do you just kind of look for the deals, or what do you think?
How do you say it? Niche?
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, you gotta say
we say
niche, right?
niche, right? Yeah.
Niche approach.
The niche is really small to medium size business owners who are really wanting to go to that next level. So who realize that growing the same way isn't what's for them, or growing the same way isn't what's going to get them to that next level, and are looking for a different way. And so often it comes down to, so whether they're um, you know stuck because of time, or they're stuck because they want to find the right team to to help give them more time or take them to the next level, or whether it's to pay for more machinery so that they can take on more jobs, whatever the case might be, it often just comes back to a lack of capital, right? So, or if they want to acquire a business, yeah, okay, that all makes sense. Or yes, I want to hire a team, because if I hired that team, or if I hired a marketing team, or outsourced, it all costs money, right? And a lot of the decisions that they don't make is made because, the decisions that they don't make is often because a lack of capital. And one of my mentors who sold his business to a multi-billion-dollar publicly listed company here in Australia, one of the things that stuck out to me in terms of his advice, he said, Bryan, your ability to grow will always be limited by your ability to source and raise capital. And while as a small business owner, you can go on a shoestring budget, you can do everything yourself, there will be a cap to when that, your energy, your own cash flow, your own connections, your own hustle, there's a cap to that, right? So your ability to grow to that next level often comes down to the ability to raise capital. And so my niche, is helping people to source and structure a way to be able to raise that capital, find the right capital. It could be debt, it could be creative financing, it could be finding the right business partner or right backer to help you get to that next level without having to give away too much, which is also a problem I see out there as well.
Yeah, I do quite a bit of business coaching, and one of the biggest things I've discovered is a lot of people build these businesses and then they realize that they have to run these businesses now.
Yeah.
And they get tired. Their wife gets mad, and they don't have the passion anymore.
Yeah.
So you gave me a new avenue to think and be like, oh, maybe this guy can sell his business for more. It's always an option.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's really cool.
Yeah.
So, what are your tactics for raising capital for business people? Like, what do you look at, or what do you think of?
Yeah, so there's obviously a multitude of ways, right?
Yeah.
So, but what it comes down to is really three. If you think of it as a triangle, right? There's obviously debt, which is borrowing and lending, and there's benefits with that because it's the cheapest. Sometimes it can be the cheapest form of finance or getting money into your business, and you're not having to give any equity away. And there's a whole range of debt options, right? So there's borrowing in terms of out of your own assets, out of your own situation, out of your own business, but there's also borrowing in terms of if leveraging other people's businesses, other people's situations. So there's a whole avenue or whole range of options with regards to that. But there's also equity. So obviously, meaning giving equity or shares into your business, or shares into the opportunity, not necessarily just your existing business, but if you're looking to grow into another state or territory, whatever the case might be, or if you're looking to grow by acquiring another business, it doesn't have to be equity into your existing business. It can be into the opportunity that you're pitching or proposing here. And again, there's a whole range of things with regards to equity. But with equity, the problem that I see is that people don't frame it or position it correctly, and then they end up giving away too much. And the same with debt. If you don't position or frame the opportunity that you've got, there's a book by Oren Klaff called Pitch Anything, and it's basically around the idea of framing yourself as the prize or your business as the prize, and that's the one thing I see people doing incorrectly, is that they don't frame their opportunity as the prize, meaning that, it's almost like when you go to raise capital, it's almost like you're begging, you're asking, excuse me, can I please, have some money? Mr. Banker, can I please have some money? Mr. Investor, can I please have some money? Whereas you need to flip that around,
Positioning.
because those bankers, those alternative lenders, those investors, they also have an agenda, and that is to make more money out of what they do. So they have money, these lenders, these investors have money. They are looking for the right opportunity. So and they're used to that script. Oh, people come to me and ask me for money. Well, if you frame it right, they should be asking you, how can I be involved in what you're putting together? So and a lot of that is revolves around finding the right people who have a genuine, who can benefit from not only what your business is, but what you're framing or what you're positioning or what you're pitching as to the reason why you're trying to raise capital, right? So so you're not just raising capital so that you can have more money to your business. It's so that you can build it to you can double your business, triple your business, so that you can spend it in marketing, so that you can do this, or so that you can acquire another business, which will allow you to expand into different territories and right? And by doing that, there's going to be people who I call beneficiaries, people who will benefit from what you're creating. And out of what you're creating and all those people who will benefit, man, there is going to be some people who will fit the key criteria of being able to be a good backer, is what I call them. And a backer could be debt, it could be equity. And then the third part of the triangle, so you've got debt, you've got equity, and then the other part of the triangle is what I call creative structuring or creative deal making. It doesn't have to be pure debt and equity, which is what everyone will tell you, or most people will tell you. No, there are other ways to go around it. So, and that's a whole other conversation as well, but, which doesn't involve, cash. It doesn't involve like borrowing. It doesn't involve giving away equity. It could be something, either a combination or something different altogether. So we're doing something like that with law firms at the moment. We've done it with digital marketing agencies. I did it with a relatively large retail fashion company. So we just negotiated and structured something that was different to either debt or equity.
Wow. I love that, like the positioning. I think that's such a good mindset to have for so much more than just business, but in what you're talking about, it's serious. I guess the reason is to position it more instead of be begging for money from the capital.
Right.
That's crazy. So what are the big dog acquisitioners? You said maybe they're doing stuff in the stock market. Do you buy a business and then you build it up and you put it in the stocks? Is that like a goal for a lot of these acquisition people?
Some of them, yeah. So so it depends on where you're at the moment, right? So some of the companies that I deal with are 10, 50 plus million in revenue, and so their goal to the next level is to go to an IPO, to list on the public stock exchange. That's a big process, and so that's what actually is for every big company was a small company once, right?
Yeah.
So and when you're in that what we call the middle market range, which is 10, 50 mil to 100 mil ish, right? That's what you call the middle market in revenue. Those guys often, so they've grown because maybe they've borrowed from the banks and they continue to help them grow and all that sort of stuff. But there's again going to be a point where what they call it, the law of diminishing returns, right? So the amount of effort and money you put into the growth of your business will have a cap in terms of its return. And when you're starting, every effort that you put in will have more effect in terms of your growth, in relation to that than it would be, if you're a $50 million to $100 million company. So often they look to acquire or merge or look at alternative ways to grow. To get them to that next level, because if you're a $50 million, for example, dollar revenue company, and you're in London, and there's another $50 million revenue business that does complementary things like a digital marketing agency in London and digital marketing agency in New York City, and you acquired that and you did it in a way that you can, strategically fund it. Then now you're a $100 million company, right? You've literally doubled your business, and not just doubled, from $100,000 company to $200,000 company. We're talking by $50 million in revenue, and there's going to be some consolidation in terms of some overheads. You won't need that many accountants inside the organization. You won't need so a lot of that can be consolidated. And so yes, for some of those guys, when they can get to that stage or acquire in that stage, their idea is to IPO. But that's not obviously the norm. Some people, want to just build their business so they can, exit, not, to retire, but maybe they want to just sell their business. Often what you'll find is that, small and medium-sized businesses won't get what they want. Even though they've been, it's a profitable business, they've been working for, probably a couple of decades or whatever the case might be, and work their backside off. The problem is it's only worth what it's worth, not what you have put into the business over the past, 10, 20 years or whatever it is. And so again, it could be a strategy where you go, hang on a second, I need to think strategically here. If I'm going to exit, maybe it does make sense that I grow it quickly, and then your financials will show, okay, I've been growing like this, and then I've acquired a business, and now I've doubled, and now that becomes part of your narrative in terms of when you're selling the business. Or if you actually selling your business is another topic altogether. But there's different ways that you can structure your business to an exit, that you don't have to sell it for less than what you're having to, and as long as there's some flexibility in your options, there's a bunch of ways. So, and not always, but sometimes raising capital to grow to that next level might actually help give it more value, or growing it by merging or acquiring another business might give it more value. And it doesn't have to be a company that's like and like. It could be like and complementary. So we're talking digital marketing, as an example, but an SEO company doesn't necessarily just have to buy an SEO company. An SEO company might buy a web development company.
Yeah, so they can all merge
right,
together.
Who's complementary, right? Because it, in the vertical supply chain, so to speak, it makes sense, right? People come to you for SEO, but hang on a second, their website needs to be improved. And that can happen in the construction industry. There is a vertical chain or a horizontal kind of ecosystem where there are complementary businesses that could either be involved.
I love that, man. That's just a awesome mind shift. What part of like the whole process do you really enjoy? Do you get fired up about?
I actually identify as a deal maker, that myself, right? I love deal making. I love the whole thing about deal making. So finding deals, seeing things where other people don't. I'm a big picture guy, and so often I see dots over here and a dot over here and a dot over here and a dot over here, and then I know, okay, this guy needs something, this guy needs something, this guy needs something. Okay, they can't get it, they're struggling, but you know what, if I put this guy and this guy together, I can help him. But if that, now that becomes, and I love that, and
that's cool.
Finding creative solutions out of the box ways of thinking is I love. And so that's and over the years I've because it's so big thinking, I've frameworked it, or put it into context so that we can replicate that sort of thinking as well, from capital raising and to growing by acquisition. So
wow, that's awesome. Do you have a bunch of staff, or is it just you, or how's your business?
So they're more like associates. So guys who are involved in what we do, in the different aspects of whether. So we've got guys in who are involved in the law firm side of things, because my background is not in law or that space. But with those guys, I am. And we're dealing with decent sized law firms at the moment because of that. Again, it's just if you don't have something, that doesn't mean that you can't be involved in what you want to be involved with. It's everyone has an agenda, everyone has something that they need, And if again, one of my mentors said, if you can help enough people get what they want, you can get what you want. And so that's kind of my approach with things. So coming back to your question, yeah, so they're more like associates. We've got some guys in the States, some guys in the UK, and obviously here as well, in Australia.
It's kind of funny. Business lawyers buying other business lawyers' practices. It's very meta.
Yeah.
That seems like the best niche you could do. It sounds like a lot of money. That's really cool. And you've just been, is this like kind of just what you've been doing for forever now? Is it like you got out of college?
So probably since around about 2014 is when I had ventured out onto my own, doing, specializing in this space, 2013, 2014. So what's that, 7 years or something like that in this space, but always been around it in some form, but more specifically mergers and acquisitions and that sort of stuff since then.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love it, man.
Yeah.
Now I got to think of some deals, and I'll bug you again.
Hey, man. Hey, anytime. Yeah.
Well, that's so cool.
And that's the thing, right? So you will come across, and your audience will come across people who will need something, right? They'll have a frustration about their business, or a frustration about not having X, Y, or Z. Right? We say Z, but X, Y, or Z. And I'm certain that in your network, there will be people who have, or if you think about it just long enough, will have aspects of what they need. And there's business in that, right? For you, not just as a deal maker, but hang on a second, there's I forgot what the term is, but like there's a you know how you can barter things, right? So there's A
synergy or something.
Right. So A needs what B needs, and so they can exchange, right? There's if you take it to the next level, A, B, and C, A has what C needs, and B has what A needs, and so there's a way that you can actually help everyone to a degree get what they want. That essentially is business, right? When you think about it, right? If you can, and it obviously comes down to exchanging of money for services and that sort of stuff. But referrals and joint ventures and bartering, all that sort of stuff is in and around that kind of way of thinking. And so, I'm sure you come across opportunities, and within your own network, there will be people who can either help directly or introduce you to people who can help. And if you help enough of those people get what they want, you can get what you want.
2021, I'm just all about collaboration. So I love what you're saying. And I'm about connecting the dots and putting people together. And then you got to kind of deal with the human element of, some people are dicks and some people are super awesome and everybody wants to help each other.
Yeah. And you can help dicks as well as awesome people, right? Exactly. I have no qualms with who, as long as we can be helpful, right?
Yeah, exactly. As long as it helps somebody. Well, that's right. I think that's awesome, man.
Yeah. Cool.
Huh. When you got out of college, did you know you'd be like buying and selling businesses, or is it just like?
No. So I did a Bachelor of Business at UTS, University of Technology, Sydney. And I knew I loved business since high school. But I thought I did. I loved marketing and the whole concept. And even back then, while everybody was reading comic books or whatever, I was buying business books. I was buying Anthony Robbins books. I remember the first time I bought an actual book, not like a kid's book or whatever, was Awaken the Giant Within. And I went, man, what, I was the only, I don't know, I would have been 12, 13 or something. And I was reading this and I go, wow. And that was kind of my introduction into personal development. And then, in uni, I thought I was going to do, I did a double major, marketing and management. I thought I was going to get into marketing and work for a big corporation. And then, like I said, my first job out of uni was with a small business consulting company, and I got exposed to the real world of business and went, wow,
Yeah.
this is real,
This is big
the real
business.
shit,
Yeah.
man. Yeah, yeah,
uh,
yeah,
that's so cool, man. So, like, when you buy a business, are you buying it with the intention of selling it eventually, or it just obviously
yeah.
depends on the business? Yeah, you're just all about buying
Me,
and
yeah,
reselling.
because I'm a deal maker, right? So
Right.
create deals, but that doesn't have to be your intention.
Mhm.
A lot of people
Just
just
depends.
is to grow, right? So,
Mhm.
but I should also recommend that there needs to be, or there should be, an exit strategy,
Yeah.
right? Even if it's 40 years, in 40 years time, there, and even set your business up as if you're going to exit, even though you might not want to exit, because touch wood, but anything can happen, and it can be a health thing, it could be a coronavirus thing, it could be anything.
No
You don't
way.
know, like a partnership split, something happens where all of a sudden, or in the not too distant future, you have to get it out, right?
Yeah.
The things that you don't realize are going to happen might happen. And so the smarter way of doing things, or I think the more prepared way of doing things, would be better, because, and if you set it up for an exit, then your family, your future kids, your future grandkids, or whatever, are going to be affected, not just by the business that you're building, but by the exit of your business too.
Ooh, that was a bombshell. That was nice.
Yeah.
So, do you have any strategies for, like, because if you buy these businesses, you got to be pretty focused, I assume, on that business to get it to grow more money to then sell it, right? So, do you have any just kind of advice for the entrepreneurs out there to, like, stick with something until you see it, like, the way out? Like, I bet you've been doing it a while. You trust the process, right? But it probably
Yeah.
wasn't always like that.
Yeah. So is the question that you're saying, if you're going to look to buy a business, have a process on how to improve those? Is that what
I
you're
just wanted to
asking?
know, I guess basically I'm asking, like, how do you focus on one business at a time to get to the point where it sells instead of just buying every business and
Oh,
having
yeah,
millions of
yeah, yeah,
businesses?
100%. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You don't want to. So acquisitions is just a strategy, right? It's not
Yeah.
the only strategy. It's not always going to be the best strategy. It's just a strategy. The big businesses have, M&A teams, corporate development teams that specialize just in that. But that's not their business. That's not their only business.
Yeah.
They have marketing guys, they have product development guys, they have all that sort of stuff, right? So,
Mhm.
you know, and the reason why they have separate guys for mergers and acquisitions is because that takes a lot of time and energy. And
Uh,
as a small to medium sized business owner, if when you get into that space and if you do it yourself, I'm telling you, it'll pull you away from all those other areas of your business, and it can suffer.
mhm.
So that's why it's always good to get people to help you. Um, but one way around it is, if you're in, again, let's use digital marketing, right?
Uh,
While as a digital marketer, you might have clients in construction, you might have clients who are plumbers, you might have clients who are, I don't know, dental businesses, or whatever the case might be. So just because you can build all of those types of businesses doesn't mean that you should buy those businesses that you can build, because you want to consider things like your own resources, your own staff, and your own ability to, like I said, consolidate. So if you bought a dental practice, okay, that's a totally new business, even though you can grow that. Now you need to learn how to run,
yeah.
and manage this, dental staff and all that sort of stuff involved. That's a totally different headspace. So it
Right.
obviously doesn't make sense. So whatever business you're in, you want to leverage off of what you've already got, and leverage off of what you already got includes your own knowledge and headspace, head capacity. So if I'm going to buy another business, I want to buy a business that I can easily go into without having to put extra resources or mind capacity into it, and all the rest. It makes sense,
Yeah.
strategically, culturally, money wise, and all that sort of stuff. And if I can also consolidate, so if I'm in Sydney, if I have a digital marketing company and I buy another digital marketing company, there's going to be an overlap in terms of staff. So I don't want two accountants, I don't want two bookkeepers, I don't want two CEOs, I don't want 20 sales teams, staff, whatever. So there's going to be some kind of consolidation of those, which means that your profitability, if it's here, by just consolidating alone, that's one of the things you want to look for, is when I buy the profit is not only in what you buy, it's in how you buy it.
Wow.
So meaning if I'm going to buy it at a multiple of this, but I know just because I can add, my client base and, save on cost, the profits will go like that post acquisition. That's your gain. That's your immediate gain. And if there isn't that, and it's reliant on your future effort, then it can be it can take your focus away. So come back to your question, right?
Yeah.
So what do you focus on? Things that don't take you away from what you're already doing too much.
Yeah. So when you're making these like big business, basically big business questions, do you go with your gut or do you go with your mind? Like, are you logical or gut?
That's a really good question. So, if I went always with my gut, man, because I love eating, right? So I'd be, it needs to be both, right? And so so I think if you're one way or the other, like if you're purely logical and rational, then you're going to miss out on a lot of things, and it can affect. I've seen it. It affects because you can't quantify everything. You can't quantify culture. You can't quantify staff. Their character. You can't, their work ethic, all that sort of stuff. You can't.
Yeah.
And at the same time, if you just rely purely on your gut and you don't listen to the reality of facts and logic, and you ignore that, again, I've seen it affect the end result, the end outcome. But if you listen to both sides of your brain, if you call it that, your logic and your gut, that's not really your brain, but yeah, then I think you've got a better chance of it. And when you think about it, your gut is a lot of your subconscious and a lot of your experience that you may have tucked away or seen before, right? And so that is something to listen to because you've seen it or heard it or it's not an imaginary thing. It's something to be conscious of. And so to answer your question, I think definitely both. Definitely both.
No, it's just kind of an interesting thing to think about, especially when you're making like big decisions like you do. I got to ask. So
yeah, and not just your decisions and not just your logic. Again, there's a. Have you heard of Ray Dalio?
Yeah.
Dalio. Yeah. So he's got a book called Principles. I love. I mean, if
love that
you
book.
haven't read it, yeah.
No,
so
it's
he's very. Yeah, so definitely, I love the way he thinks. And then one of the things he says is check your logic against other people who are smart, I guess, in the field that you're looking to get advice in, and check their logic. And if it makes sense, I think he calls it a triangulate or whatever it calls. And so check it, right? And check, and ask them about their gut feeling as well. So because what you're trying to do is give yourself the best chance of making the right decisions. And when you do that enough, those decisions, you'll be a better decision maker. And when you're a better decision maker, it affects your own confidence. And when you have your own confidence, people will see and feel that confidence. And when people see and feel that confidence, people want to be around you and support you in your growth because, they know you're going places. So
awesome. So this is just a selfish question, I guess, but I make affiliate websites and then I try and sell them on like Flipper and stuff like that. And I'm just wondering if you have are there certain businesses that a lot of the merger acquisition guys look to buy or have more value in their minds, or is there any insight that you think you have on those sort of things?
Yeah. So my advice is always to not look at what the hottest thing is. Just go with, what you know best, because going into healthcare, for example, which is hot at the moment, if you've got no interest in it, and it'll affect your decisions, your all that sort of stuff. If you don't have contacts in healthcare, but it's people are pumping literally billions of dollars into those types of businesses, I wouldn't recommend, and you have to learn a lot to get to there. I would suggest stick not in your lane. I hate that term, right? But stick in and around what you leverage off of a foundation that you've already got. And I think this is what it all comes down to, is leveraging, right? And Jay Abraham was all about leverage. I think he's got a book called Get the Most Out of Everything You've Got, or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's all about the idea of leveraging what you've already got. You've got a lot of contacts, you've got a lot of knowledge, and there's a foundation of what you've got. And people, there's, even you don't realize, but you have a reputation in what you do. So people know you because of what you do, and that is value. So when you're doing something or looking to expand into that, people go, oh yeah, that makes sense. As opposed to if I'm going into another business or healthcare, people go, yeah, I only know you for this. And so then you'll have to find people to convince that, all that sort of stuff. So, I would look for, so again, the dots. So
Right.
if you're here, okay, what is it that you want to grow your business? What does it look like? Or what is the, what's the goal?
Uh-huh.
Who has what I want? Okay, well, let me ask you. So you've got a few affiliate websites.
Yeah.
Is that what you're? Yeah.
Yeah. So
And so what is it?
building more of them, but I'm ranking them organically, getting traffic and selling products. But then I want to sell them for like a 10x profit because I've already put so much money into it. That's pretty much the
Yes.
game is, I get the asset, I show that it's making a profit, and then I sell it for 10 times more to get the money back faster. And then I can put it into other
Yeah.
projects and things like that. So
Okay.
pretty fun.
So one way to think about it. So I know that space is pretty hot, right? In terms of e-commerce and affiliate websites and all that sort of stuff, right?
Yeah.
So, and those are some of the dots in and around, what you're trying to build. There will be people who will benefit from you creating what you're creating, and they'll be okay, yep, I want to buy a cash flow business, and I'm willing to buy it for 5x to 10x or something like that, right?
Yeah.
But I would also look to, okay, who else will have positive effects or a positive outcome from what I'm building? So what's one of your affiliate, you may not want to say, but what's one of your affiliate website products?
I'll say, so it's Best Home Studios. It's like recording studio equipment for your house.
Recording studios. Okay.
Like in your house.
In your house. Okay. So who would be your customers in that affiliate? Like, what are you selling on that affiliate website?
Like microphones, cameras, kind of like green screens or something like that. And, just like recording equipment so that people can make courses in their house or podcasts or YouTube, stuff like that. So that's kind of the niche. It's a good niche.
Okay. There you go. There will be some guys who, whether they're manufacturers, suppliers, wholesalers, or of that kind, who are selling microphones and those types of things already, but they're not, and they might be decent size in terms of their revenue, and maybe they're international, whatever the case might be, but maybe they're not as they're not as good online, for example, right? But if you build enough traction, and they're not online yet, but hang on a second, if they bought your business, it could really become the foundation for them to expand online. Then that could be something to look at, right? And so by speaking to some of those companies who may be struggling at the moment because of COVID, but realizing, hey, we need to do more stuff online, and maybe they're doing it already, but they're not doing it in the way that you do.
Yeah.
They might be what I call a beneficiary, and who would be willing to pay more for it, because for them it has more value than the price that they're actually going to pay, right?
Yeah, so
because it gives them a distribution channel and all that sort of stuff. I mean, I could be wrong, but that's just something that comes off the top of my head. There are, like I said, there's enough people who will benefit from what you're doing. So again, if you help enough people get what they want, you can get what you want.
So it's sometimes it just active outreach is kind of what you're saying. Like,
yeah, but you could actually be within your 1 or 2 degrees of separation. So if you're selling Yamaha, or not Yamaha, but right, there's a whatever brands that you're doing, there'll be people who are selling those things already, whether it's online or not, that may want to do that as well. So there's a whole range of ways to look at it, but I would always look at, okay, not just the direct options for me to sell it, but who else, and then if there's enough of those, you can create that whole FOMO, right? FOMO, right? The fear of missing out. Because if you've got a great business, a great opportunity, and you've pitched it, positioned it right, and they know that there are these other companies that you've spoken to and are potentially interested, they don't want to, that great opportunity to go to their competitor, for example. and that creates a bit of
A
a
buying
not
frenzy.
auction, but yeah. So
Oh man.
yeah,
Well, it's been just awesome having you on the show, man. And I love the way you think about business. It's just been a real pleasure. But why don't you tell everybody the best way to get in contact with you and to reach you?
yeah. The best way, if you wanted to get in touch with me, find me on LinkedIn. So Bryan Santos, Bryan Santos, Santos. Connect with me directly on there, or I'm on Facebook. You can find me. My website is merger, MERGER acquisition, ACQUISITION solutions.com.
That's
And
awesome,
you
man.
can
And I got one more question before we take you off. So I've been asking this to a few people. It's kind of a philosophical thing, not too much, but
yeah.
what is value? So what is your definition of value?
Ooh, it's a good question.
Yeah.
What is the definition of value? Okay, because this is interesting, right? This also comes back to a lot of what we do, the acquisitions, right?
Mhm.
So I was speaking to someone yesterday, and someone paid close to $10,000 for an accredited valuation of their business, right? And it's not like a property where a certain valuation, you can't, if it's worth $1 million, yeah, you might get up or down that, but it's not like it fine. But in business, you can negotiate a lot, right? There's all sorts of ways of valuing a business, and what it comes down to is essentially what people are willing to buy, that point in which people are willing to buy it at, right?
Uh-huh.
So in terms of value, I guess it's um, the return that the other side gets from what you're giving. I can't think of a more philosophical way of doing it, explaining it, but um, it's actually not. While you're giving the value is decided by the other party, if that makes sense. They
No,
are
totally. Yeah.
ultimately making that assessment on value. So I don't know if that's the definition, but
No,
that's
yeah.
kind of how I see it anyway.
It's just a question I ask myself because sometimes I create like courses and I'm trying to like make something out of nothing, and I'm trying to bring the most value to it. So I'm like, what the fuck? What is value? So I have to ask everybody that smarter than me. So
Yeah.
and I love the take on it.
Yeah. So if you can always think about it not from your point of view, but from the other side's point of view. And again, if you can get them what they want, and it's something that they really, really want, and it's like a nagging frustration, and in fact, it's a more deeper desire that they need to be resolved, and you can help them. Um, that's how I would be thinking about value: the solution to their nagging frustration and deep desire.
Awesome, man. Well, you're a rock star. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
A
I just
pleasure,
know
man.
everybody listening definitely got a lot of nuggets. There's just a lot of gold. Great ways of thinking about business. A lot bigger too, man. You think, like you said, you think big picture, and I love that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And everyone, like I said, every big business starts off small. So everyone listening, right, can I think reach their goals if they obviously put the effort in and are smart about what they're doing too.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you for coming on, and thank you everybody listening. We're gonna wrap it up. So take care. Thanks. Bye.